Hello there, students. The purpose of this video is to help you with journal assignment number 11. And this is the first of 3 journal assignments for essay number 3. Okay, so let's begin. And we have to begin with essay number 3. All right, so here is the opening, or the welcome page for English 100 V05. What I say about V05 also applies to V06. We'll begin by going to the syllabus here from the left menu. And we'll go to the syllabus after we look at what I call the master schedule, but it's labeled assignments and course schedule. We go down to week 11. And you'll notice that it says that this week on the 7th, on November 7th, and November 7th, if I'm not mistaken, let me not be mistaken, November 7th is Saturday. So by the end of that night, you need to submit journal assignment number 11, which is an informal outline or ordered list for essay 3 using results of interview. So you will conduct an interview first. So I'll explain it when we get to that point. And again, this is becoming the assignment became available today. I'm doing this today on November 2nd at 8 in the morning is when the assignment became available for you to start looking at and start working on. There is a late deadline for the assignment. You can look at these headings, right? And that shows us that the late deadline for this assignment is November 16th, right? So you would have till that's next week. You could submit it, next week. It's better if you submit it this week by Saturday the 7th, though. Okay, so that's what we can see there. We can also see. Let me. I don't know if I need to scroll. No, we can just look down here, where it says that on week 14, that's when essay number 3 is due. So the first draft of essay number 3 became available this morning at 8 in the morning, but will be due on November 25th. Okay, and there's a late date to December 2nd. Okay, so that's the essay that we're beginning to work on by doing journal assignment number 11, which you have to begin before you can type the journal assignment. You have to conduct an interview. So let's find out what that is. Now let me go to the syllabus so you can see how these items are positioned on the syllabus. I'm going to click on topic outline and I have to scroll down a little bit more. We scroll down to week 11, and there we can see that the essay, the instructions to essay number 3 became available today, as did the instructions to journal assignment number 11, the 2 that I've told you about. And what I'm doing right now, actually, this right now is an introduction to journal number 11, right? But there is also an introduction to essay 3 that I will show you in just a moment. There is a PowerPoint presentation that is already available. It became available this morning at 8 in the morning. And you can see the same information I showed you from the master schedule, which is that journal assignment 11, right? Which is using the results of an interview to make basically an outline, right? Is due on the 7th, or if you're going to submit it late, which I don't think you do on purpose, right? It kind of would just happen, right? You need a little extra time, that's fine. That would be till November 16th. If we scroll down to week 14, you can see that essay number 3 is, in other words, an essay that you'll write based on this outline, right, which is journal number 11, that essay will be due on November 25th. That's before Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving. But you can submit it up until December 2nd, which is I think that's I'm not sure what it is, but it's December 2nd. Like what day it is, Monday or Tuesday, who knows? We can check that later. Okay, so that's it. That's what you're working towards. So this week and next week and the following week, you'll do one journal each until it'll be week 14, which will be the week in which you'll have to finish up essay number 3. Okay, so that's how things look on the syllabus. So now let's go to course content. If it lets us. I'm drawing it again. There it is. So on course content, we scroll down to week 11. Wow, 10 weeks just went by, right? And now it's week 11. Notice how I said that essay 3 is due on week 14, and then it's only 1 week after that, and then the finals week. So this semester, we're kind of on the last 1/3 of the semester. So on week 11, which begins today, November 2nd. Okay, so here are some items that I already have available for you. Already available, this became available in the morning, today at 8 in the morning, was this Introduction to Essay 3 with Journal Assignment 11 explanation. It's got a brief, inside the PowerPoint, there's a brief explanation. There's a one slide that explains Journal Assignment 11 because it's the first one. The other journals aren't explained on the PowerPoint, but this one is. And then, so it's either the PowerPoint in video form with advancing slides or the PowerPoint in, still form. Then there's also a sample. The Journal Assignment 11, I went ahead and did this. I went ahead and conducted an interview. I had an interview with my mom. I interviewed my mom about my great-grandfather, Francisco Mujica. And so I already have done my outline based on what I learned in the questions and answers from that interview. I interviewed my mom over the phone. So don't be telling me, well, I can't meet with my mom or with whoever it is. It doesn't have to be your mom, in person. Neither did I. I think I can meet with her in person. We're careful because of the pandemic and possible infection or something, because you can simply by talking, you can infect someone. Whenever we do visit her, she lives in the same town here. We wear masks. She wears a mask also. So does my dad. But, not only to avoid, just to be cautious, we didn't do that, but it's just more convenient to talk over the phone, right? And so we did this over the phone. There's also other ways of doing an interview, such as through, things like Zoom and Skype. If you have that capability with the person you're interviewing, then go ahead and do that as well. Okay, so really no excuses on the interview. You're going to have to do one, and your results we'll use to make an outline and an essay, which will be essay number 3. And of course, I'll explain more, but I just wanted to say that from the start that I went ahead and did it. And I have, when you click on this link, you see my sample, and of course, we'll look at that. Now, you probably also, of course, this is when I'm producing the video right now, but the video will go, I think, right here, right? So you have already accessed it through here, right? You clicked on something that for you was here when you got this. And so that's how you got this video off of this week 11. Of course, I can't see it because I'm still in the process right now of producing it. You can see as we scroll down the page that, the journal is what's due this week on November 7th, which is a Saturday, or it can be due, you can submit it up until the following week, November 6th. And yes, you have a folder for Essay 3, right? Because it's not due this week. It'll become due on, it became available, but it'll become due on November 25th, which is before Thanksgiving, on the week of Thanksgiving. Okay, so that's how it looks on the folder so far, although you saw something else, right? You saw and accessed this video. Other places to access the video are in the journal assignments folder, right? You can not only you can access the things I've been showing you or telling you about, which is, and please note, it becomes very clear here that I skipped journal assignment 10. If you'll notice that last week you didn't have a journal assignment for essay number 3. So that's why we skipped from the journal assignment 9 from essay 2. We skipped from that to the journal assignment 11 for essay 3. Okay, so that was a deliberate skipping. We skipped journal assignment 10. All right, you can see that very clearly here in this folder that has nothing but journal assignments, right? Okay, so here is the sample link, right? The link is here for the sample I've been telling you about, which we haven't looked at yet, but we'll look at it. I mean, maybe you already looked at it, right? Since it was available several hours. Well, it was available a couple of hours or so before this video. And then if you could have accessed the video through here, right? Maybe you came into the journals folder and clicked on the video right here, the video link, right? And then of course, here's the assignment. When you click on this, whether here or in the week 11 folder, you can access the actual assignment. And of course, we'll look at that too. And then another place where you can access all of this is in the essays folder. And so there's many ways to get to it. I can click through this and go to the essays folder, the essay 3 folder, and so on and so forth. Or I can simply go back to the week 11 folder and then press the link to the essay 3 assignment folder, which is already there conveniently situated. And there you can see the essay 3 explanation, which I told you about. Here is the sample. And you might have accessed the video by clicking on the link, which is right here. I know I can't see it, but you can see it, right? If you're watching this video, you can go into that folder and you can already see it there. And of course, here's the journal assignment itself. All right, with that in mind, let me go back. I'm going to go back to the week folder. I prefer kind of doing things off of there. All right, so using that, let's begin with what? Let's begin with this one, with the introduction to essay 3 in general. You really need to understand in general what you're doing, right? Where the essay is headed before you can do the first piece, which is journal assignment 11. And journal assignment 11 will not be any paragraph, right? The journal assignment 11 will be an outline. So it's not, like I said, an informal outline or ordered list. So you're not going to type a paragraph yet. But I know that what I wrote in my outline, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there that will go into my 5 paragraphs, and I organized it into the 5 paragraphs. You know, well, I mean, you'll see it in a moment, so I don't need to say it right now. So the first thing to do, I'm not going to play it as a video because there's like a 15-second pause in each one. You can always pause or move forward or that kind of thing. I'm just going to access the PowerPoint that's still, okay? So we click on that. I am using Chrome, which is what I recommend you use as well. And in Chrome, it always puts the download over here on the left. You can see it, I think. And then when you click on it, it opens it. And as you can see, it's a PowerPoint. You don't need to edit it. You can just watch it, or you can click edit and watch it. Either way is fine. I'm just going to go to slideshow and I'm just going to do that because there's no reason to edit the video. So there's introduction to essay 3. Write an essay in which you talk about a family member, living or deceased, that you find interesting and that you want to learn more about. So I picked someone who was deceased, someone who was dead, someone who passed away. It's someone that I knew. I knew my mom's Buelito Pancho, which is what she calls her. His name was Francisco Mujica, but she called him Buelito Pancho. Most people called him Pancho or Panchito. And so I knew him. I knew about him. I met him. I talked to him. I shook his hand and everything. many years ago when I was around, I don't know, 8 years old, 7 years old, several years. I know we visited him. And so that's whom I chose. I could have chosen someone living. For example, I considered um, interviewing my uncle Nacho. Interviewing, he's a brother of my mom's brother, one of my mom's brothers. So I could have interviewed him, and either I would have interviewed him in person or I would have interviewed my mom about him. But most likely I would have just, and I saw him yesterday. We visited him. He lives in Hidalgo, we visited him, and I thought, maybe I should interview him, and I probably would have done it over the phone as well. Now, you'll learn about the person either by interviewing the person if living and available. So, for example, if I had chosen to interview my uncle Nacho, who's still alive, right? I would have interviewed him, probably like I said over the phone, or by interviewing someone else about the person, someone who knows or knew the person if the person is unavailable or deceased. So I decided instead to interview my mom, who obviously knew her grandfather Pancho. Okay, and again, let's say you have someone who's alive. Let's say you have a grandmother who's alive, right? But you really don't have easy access to your grandmother. Or maybe she wouldn't do that well in an interview, right? It would be difficult to interview her, etc. You know, different people have different conditions, health conditions, etc. And so let's say that it's not possible to interview, or very difficult to interview your grandmother, and she's alive, but it's difficult. Well, then interview someone else. Interview your mom, interview your dad, interview another grandchild, let's say an older grandchild who knew her better or something like that. So again, the point is for you to get information about some family member of yours that you're interested in. Let's not do family friends, all right? I think you can find at least one relative that you can interview. Sometimes people ask, can I interview a family friend, or can my essay be about a family friend who I consider to be an uncle? Let's not do that, okay? I want it to be a family member. And I think you'll be able to find one person. It doesn't have to be someone significantly older, right? I went with, here my uncle Nacho would have, he's someone who's my the age of my mom, a little bit younger. But then I picked someone even older, right? Which is someone who's passed away and is my great grandfather. But it could be, I mean, if you want to interview your mom, your dad, you want to interview someone else who's a little closer in age, that's fine. Probably not someone your age. I would say probably try to be someone who's one generation ahead of you at least. Okay, but the rules don't really say that though, right? You could interview someone who's just a little older than you as well. You could do that, I suppose. It's probably better if it's someone who is at least one generation ahead of you. That's just a recommendation. It's not a requirement though. The essay itself will be 600 to 1200 words long. The essay, once you have all 5 paragraphs, and it'll have the typical structure: introduction paragraph, 3 body paragraphs where you talk about your family member, and the conclusion paragraph. And that'll be very clear from my outline, and it should be clear from your outline. In essays 1 and 2, your outlines haven't been that clear sometimes as to the order. So make sure that you figure out what each paragraph does, and then that your outline then becomes an essay where it's crystal clear what each paragraph is about. Okay, so that's that. That's the first slide. Second slide, choose 3 things you learned about. So I talked when my mom and I talked over in an interview yesterday over the phone. She told me about 10, 12 things. All right. And sometimes I would ask her one question and she would tell me about 5 things. And that's great. She was very, very happy to talk to me about her grandfather. I think she loved him very much and was very willing to share, Of course, it's talking to her son, her favorite son, because I'm the only son. She also has a daughter, and she's the favorite daughter, right? So she's happy to talk to me, I'm sure. That was part of it. But I know she really admired her grandfather. And so it was a very good experience talking with her. So she told me a lot of things. So even though I asked a lot of questions, it says here, about many things, I know and just like you, that I'm not going to write about everything. So I only chose 3 things. And also, let's say you ask a question and the person you're interviewing doesn't give you an answer, that's fine. You don't need answers on every single question. And by the way, I have a list of questions on the Essay 3 instruction sheet. And I'll show you those in just a moment. So you'll have to choose 3 things. You have to do that because, let me use the back arrow here. There it is, 3 body paragraphs talking about your family member. So you're going to talk about one thing and another thing and another thing. So topic A, topic B, and topic C. You cannot talk about anything. There is no essay in which you can talk about everything. That's impossible to talk about everything. All right. So I hope that's become clear by now. This is the 3rd essay that you have to be choosy and picky what you talk about. All right. And it wasn't easy to decide, but I decided what 3 things I would focus on. So each one of those things becomes a focus, as I showed you, of a body paragraph. For your essay, you'll also find an internet article related to one of the 3 things about your family member that you're writing about. Now, I didn't worry about that when I did the interview, and when I wrote my outline, I did not include any information from an internet article. I'll add that later, but I'll show you where I think I'm going to put and what kind of article I'm going to look for. So I probably won't say a lot about that. I'll tell you more about that next week, okay? How to find the internet article. This week, just focus on interviewing and making an outline. I would say don't go looking for an internet article this week. If you want to, you can, but again, you won't get a lot of help from me on that because I'm not going to focus on that yet till I'll focus on it next week. And so here's some information about, you're going to have to give credit to the website where you find the article. You'll mention information in one of the paragraphs, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. The Essay 3, you will also have like an image chart or graph somewhere. And so in one of the paragraphs, whichever one, you'll say that you have a picture. Let's say I'm considering saying, let's say in my introduction, that I do have pictures of my not only did I meet, I know I met my great grandfather Pancho, but I also have pictures of him. So I'll probably mention a picture in my introduction paragraph, and then I will paste the image of the picture on the last page of the essay. Again, I'm not focusing on this right now, but I'm just telling you it's going to be something very easy and you don't have to worry about it, and certainly don't worry about it this week. All right. Your essay, once you write the essay, it'll have MLA format, just like essays 1 and 2, except that your second to the last page will be a works cited page. And I'll show you how to do that next week. So finally, we've got the journals for essay number 3, which are numbers 11, 12, and 13. Remember, we skipped number 10. So this journal is an informal outline or ordered list for essay number 3 using results of an interview. Next week, you'll have a journal, which will be your works cited section, and I'll tell you how to do that. And week 13, you'll have body paragraphs A, B, and C, including any citations that are needed there. And I'll explain how to do that later. Now, notice that you will not have a journal where you turn in your introduction or your conclusion, but your essay will still have to have an introduction or a conclusion. I know Halloween was just a couple of days ago, but I don't want any headless horsemen here. In other words, every essay must have a head. The head paragraph is the introduction paragraph, but I don't want to see it in advance, right? I don't want you to turn it in. I don't have time to look at that. I'll show you how to write it. You'll see. I will still show you my complete essay, and it will have an introduction, and you'll see how to do it. You'll see what's supposed to go into it. Basically, a lead-in and a thesis statement. In fact, you'll be able to see kind of how I'm going to write my introduction from the Journal 11, from my sample Journal 11. It has the stuff for it already. And the conclusion is always very easy. It's just 3 or more sentences to wrap everything up. So, and actually you'll see what I'm going to say in my conclusion already from my outline. But what you won't see is a sample introduction journal and a sample introduction. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. And a sample conclusion journal, because there won't be one, right? You will not submit either paragraph as a journal assignment. Okay. There will be a first draft of the essay, which, like I told you, will be due on November 25th. And then later on, right at the end of the semester, December or something or other, you'll submit it again to try to get a higher score. Unless you get 100 on the first one, then there's no need to submit the final draft. So here's Journal 11, the informal outline or ordered list. So out of the many things you learn about your family member during the interview, choose 3 things. See, I put that in bold because really, students, when I look at Essay 2, and I know some of you might still be working on Essay 2 because I extended the late deadline on that one. A lot of you struggle with choosing. You have trouble. It seems to me you have trouble making decisions, all right? Because you need to decide. And it is difficult making a decision when you have like 10. Life is horrible when you have no choices, right? It's terrible when you don't have any choices. We're like, there's only one thing you can do, and you're like, I wish I could do something else, right? Think of food, right? There's like only one thing to eat at the house. There's like, whatever. I don't want to like pick on food, right? But there's only one type of food, and that's all you can eat. And then that's the only choice you have. It'd be nice, you say, I wish I had more choice on what to eat. For example, right? For example. But it's also a problem when you have lots of choices, right? When you have so many choices and then you have trouble deciding on which ones, right? And that's what might happen here. In your interview, you and the person you talk to might talk about 12 things, 15 things. For me, I don't know, about 10 things at least or so. I had to choose 3 to focus on, just 3. And even from those things, I couldn't talk about every single detail because the essay can't be more than what? What's the limit? 1,200 words. So you have to choose just 3 topics to focus on in your essay, and then put them all in order according to the usual structure, which is introduction, body A, body B, body C, and conclusion. Watch for more Essay 3 assignment descriptions, especially in video form. Well, that's what this is, right? You're watching it right now. You're watching this video. Okay, so I think that's a pretty nice little introduction to Essay 3 in general. Now, before I move on, let me show you something I have here. I use this website called familysearch.org, and it's actually a free website that anyone can use. And so if you're interested, look up familysearch.org and then read about it. And this is not an assignment, okay? This is not an assignment. I'm only showing it as kind of an interest piece, all right? Just so you can see kind of something that I do in my life. You can see that this is me, Jose Alberto Perez, a little bit small, so let me zoom in a bit. How do I move forward? Oh yeah, I can go like this. It's like kind of like a Google map where you move it around like that. And so this is me, Jose Alberto Perez, and then there's my wife, Monica Jane Blanche. These are my children. These are my children. So notice these are my descendants. So I've got me right there, my spouse, and then my descendants right here. And so if when they have children, they would go in, I don't know, they go in this direction or this direction, but these are my descendants. But then here are my ancestors. So here are my parents. So there's my dad right there. There's my mom. And then also here is my wife's dad and mom. And then as we continue, here are my dad's parents. Here are my mom's parents, and then here are my in-laws, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. These are their parents. As you can see, I have pictures of this is I mentioned my uncle Nacho, right? Well, this is my grandfather Nacho. So my uncle Nacho was named after him, after Ignacio Cáceres. All right, so this is my grandmother, my mom's mom. So I interviewed my mom about my grandmother's father, my grandmother's dad, Francisco Mujica. So as I move over here on the tree, on the family tree, you can see there's more people, and this goes on. I have several generations, I have several generations. So this is, and that's the point of familysearch.org. It's It's a website where you can enter information that you know about your ancestors, and you can also find information that other people have entered around the world about your ancestors. So because we're all connected, sooner or later we're all connected. And so this is the person, Francisco Mujica Valderrama, right here. And this might be the picture that I'm going to also include in my essay. So he was born in 1900 and lived till 1980. And I remember very clearly going to his funeral and burial and everything. And so that's it. That's what my essay is about. It's about Francisco Mujica Valderrama. All right. So now let's go to the assignment. Back to week 11. There's that folder right there. So here on week 11, I'm going to click on the assignment link. And it says right here, type an informal outline that you are writing about based on an interview you conducted with this person or someone who knows the person well, who knows or knew the person well. We'll create journal entry. We'll type JA11, and then I'll attach the document there, right? Here are some guidelines. What do I write about in my journal entry? As you write, keep in mind that eventually in your essay 3, you'll write about 3 important things you want to focus on about that person. So again, like I said before, just 3 things. And then put all those details into an outline that shows the 5-paragraph essay structure, okay? So, and of course, when you do the journal, once you have the information from the interview and you type it up and everything, here you type JA11. Please do that. I think most of you do that. Maybe all of you do that. That's good. And then you could type it here. You could type your outline right there, and then just hit and then just post the entry. Or what I prefer, right? My preference is that instead of doing that, you create a Word document and then attach it using this, right? And then post the entry. That's my preference. Okay. And it's also a good idea for you to do it that way. That way you save the document and you can just copy and paste from the document. Although I think the problem is that when it's past the late deadline, you can't access the journal itself anymore. So it's better that you have a document that's saved, right? Which you can access just by going to whatever folder you saved it in, right? Because again, this journal will no longer be available after November 16th. Okay, so that's the assignment, but how do we get there, right? How do we produce the journal? Well, one thing we need to do is we need to go back to the essay. If I go back to course content, and I go back to week 11, again, I feel like the folders for the weeks are like home. You can find everything you need there. For example, you can find the essay 3 instructions. It's very important that you access the essay 3 instructions. And so I clicked on it, and they should be down here toward the bottom. There it is, first draft, okay? Essay 3 instructions, and there's the information about the essay itself, right? But here is the all-important instruction sheet. Okay, so once this comes up, it'll be a PDF file. And the first thing I give you is, I tell you that it should be a family member, etc., as I've already said. And then it says, below are some possible interview questions, right? Although you don't need to ask all of them, and you can ask different questions if you want, okay? So I recommend you ask many questions. In fact, I recommend that you ask more than like 3 topics, because you could say, well, I'm just going to ask about 3 things because that's what goes in the essay. I guess you can do that if you want, but I recommend you ask about many things, okay? And that way you have a lot to choose from, and you just choose 3. But that's up to you. As long as your essay has 3 topics and you can write about it, that's fine. But this is what I recommend. Here are some questions. What is this person's earliest memory? Okay. If you are interviewing the person, so you could say, what's your earliest memory? So let's say, imagine, so that it does, I know I mentioned 2 people, Nacho and Pancho. Well, it was only Pancho, right? I only interviewed my mom about her grandfather, whose nickname was Pancho, right? But imagine that he were alive. Imagine that I had done this a few years ago, and well, I guess several years ago, or that he had lived longer, and my great grandfather Pancho were still alive. Well, I could have simply asked him, "Well, what's your earliest memory? Like, what's something you remember from your childhood, like way back? Do you remember something from when you were 2 years old or 3 years old or something, right?" Or you could ask it the way I did. I asked my mom, "What is your first memory of this person?" So I asked her, like, "What do you remember from when you were a little girl about your grandfather, your abuelito Pancho, right?" That's the way I had to do it. I had to introduce someone else about Pancho because he passed away a long time ago. Here's an interesting question: what historic events took place that influenced this person's life? So I asked my mom that. I asked her, so what were some local or national or international things going on that affected his life? You know, where does the person's name come from? And you know what? She didn't know. My mom did not know where Francisco came from because that wasn't his father's name. So where did it come from? It wasn't like, as far as she knows, it wasn't some relative or something who was named Francisco. So she didn't know the answer to that question. That's fine. What was this person's family like? So what was my uncle? What was her abuelito Pancho's family like? The family that he grew up with, and she told me a few things. How did your abuelito Pancho deal with challenge or stress? You know what? I really didn't ask her that question. After I asked her a bunch of questions, and you don't have to go in order. I wasn't going in order because if she talked about something else, I would skip to that question or ask something completely different that wasn't on my list, right? So I never got to this question because she kind of answered the question through other answers, through other questions. Don't stress out about the interview, okay? When I did the interview, I wasn't stressed out that I have to go in order and I must get an answer to each question. That's not how you need to do this, okay? Um, what advice did or would this person give? She told me a lot of things that he used to advise, advice that he would give like the grandchildren, because she was one of the grandchildren, right? And that he would give his children, right, also, like my grandma, right? Were the strongest influences on this person's life? How did they influence this person? And you know what? I never got around to that. Was he influenced by his dad? Was he influenced by his own grandfather or grandmother? Did his brothers and sisters, were they like a big influence or big friends? And I never got to that because the questions that I asked were most of them, but my interview with my mom took 90 minutes, so there were some things where I'm like, okay, that's it, no more interview, right? We gotta, like, it was time for dinner, for in different houses. She's over there and I'm over here, but it was time to do other things. What special awards or recognition has this person received? I asked the question and she didn't have an answer, like a specific award, like a trophy or something, but she did answer that a lot of people really admired him and looked up to him and always asked him for help, and he gave them help. He was a very serviceable person. And now my mom did have some answers about money, education, family, health, and exercise. You know what? I didn't even have to ask this question because back when I asked her about this, she told me about what he felt about health and exercise and things like that. So again, some answers will come without you even asking the question. Religion and music. I'm actually going to make. You'll see on the outline and eventually on my essay how one of my paragraphs will be about music. Why? Because I love music. And I am a musician. I don't make a living playing music, but I like to make music and listen to music, of course, and everything. What difficult things has this person experienced? Yeah, she kind of told me throughout the interview about some things. What is the most rewarding thing that happened to this person? What made him, in my case, him, feel proud, right? If this person could change characters or habit, what would it have been? I don't think my mom could answer that question, so I didn't even ask it. What was the scariest thing that the person ever went through? I didn't ask that question, but it would be I mean, again, I didn't have time for it. And you know what? Maybe I didn't have time for it because it was at the end, right? but feel free to skip around. If you think this is a cool question, don't ask it last. Ask it at the beginning, or ask it, more like in the middle of whatever time you have. What hobbies or pastimes does or did this person enjoy doing? And that's where I found out about music, because I asked about that. And what unforgettable moments has this person had? I never asked that question during my interview with my mom, but there can be some unforgettable moments that the person had. Now, I'm not going to go into what it says in the notes, because a lot of what I said here and the rest of it, it also got covered on that PowerPoint that I showed you, right? And so we need to move on to, I guess we need to move on to the how to turn the interview into the journal assignment, right? Into the outline. So let me continue by giving you a tip. Take what you take this PDF document, right, of the instructions, and do this. Let's see, can I do it? Yeah. You see, actually, I'm going to zoom out to make it as small as possible, and I might need to do this in more than one take, but here we go. Will it let me continue? I'm trying to use my mouse to drag down, but it's not letting me, so that's fine. But I got this much from here to here. I'm copying some questions. Copy, right? Now I'm going to open a Word document, a word processor document, so I can paste the questions there. I like to type. I am a fast typist. I did try to record. I tried to record with my phone, with a phone app, my interview with my mom, but something went wrong and it didn't work. Let's see, paste. But I was typing, and sometimes I would tell my mom, "Hey, give me just a moment so I can finish typing the answer." And so she would stop a little bit so I could type. But I'm a very fast typist. Maybe you're a fast typist too. So and notice what happened. The questions are there, right? But I only got up until the habit, changing a habit or something like that. So let me go back and get the rest of it. That was just a little bit, just this much right here, right? And so notice that's convenient because you have the questions there. If you like to handwrite, you can also, it's not doing it in list form. I don't know why. Oh, there it is. So there are the questions. What I was doing is I had my Word document open. And so whenever I ask, let's say that I asked this question right here. So then I would just open up a space and then I would just start typing whatever answer my mom would give me, right? And again, I type really fast, and I wasn't worried about typos and things like that. I'm not going to be correcting spelling mistakes while I'm just trying to survive and type everything my mom says. And like I said, I would tell her, stop, pause for a moment so I can finish this. Okay, now move on, right? And it was sad because she was like really into it, and sometimes I'd have to stop her just a little bit, right? And so I felt bad for kind of interrupting. But again, if you can do a recording, that might help, right? If you record it, that way record the phone call or whatever it is, so that you can then go back and check things if you miss something. All right. Like in my case, I'm happy about the way I did it because I didn't want to spend time having to go back to a recording to see what I missed. So that's why I went ahead and asked my mom to pause and stop a little bit so I could catch up, so that I wouldn't have to spend more time, another hour later on reviewing the tape, right? Reviewing the recording. But again, do it whatever's comfortable for you. If you prefer to handwrite your answers, then just handwrite. Maybe you can number them: question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then on another piece of paper write number 1 and then the answer, number 2 and the answer, and all that. Okay, that's the interview. That's how you do it. Okay. I won't show you my notes. The reason I'm not showing you my interview notes, the things that I type, is that there are some personal things there, private, personal things, good things, but I just simply don't want to show you, everything that my mom said about my grandfather, right? Good things, but again, some things are personal. And I understand this is an essay where I'm asking you to write about something personal about a relative of yours, but you get to pick and choose what you say, right? So I picked 3 things that I'm willing to share about what I learned through the interview. Okay. So with all that in mind, I had an interview. I typed a lot of stuff, right? Under most of the questions. Some questions, like I said, I didn't ask. Let's go back to, oh no, let me go back to that week 11, because and this again, I put my links everywhere, right? All over the place. But I like going back to that week 11 folder. That's kind of like a one-stop shop. And so let me go ahead and show you my sample. And there it is. This is what I came up with. Out of all the things that my mom told me about in our interview, I decided to talk about 3 things. So my thesis statement, which is part of the introduction paragraph section, right, says, of the many things I learned about Abuelito Pancho during the interview, 3 stood out: work, personality, and pastimes. Students, a lot of you struggle. Are you one of them? Do you struggle with getting to the point? And you know what? Maybe I do too, right? Maybe you see that I kind of go off on a tangent or something, but not so much in writing, right? Uh, you have to make it obvious. Now, I'm a very intelligent person, okay? I can sort of see what you're saying without you saying it, okay? But it's not about that. It has to be obvious to all readers. I have been having trouble figuring out what your main points are. Not all of you. Some of you do it right. Maybe you're a person who does it right. But I am asking you, provide a little simple map like that, of the 3 things you're going to focus on. And then make sure you focus 1 paragraph at a time on each one. So this is my paragraph A, body paragraph A, body paragraph B, body paragraph C. Okay. So in my introduction, my lead-in, here are some things I'm saying about, and you can read them. This video is already really long. You can read what I'm going to say in the opening lines about my grandfather. Some things I already knew. I already knew his name before the interview. Other things I learned during and I'm going to mention that I interviewed my mom to find the information. Then the last sentence in my introduction paragraph will be this one, where I say that I'm focusing on 3 things. And what are those 3 things? Body paragraph A, work. Body paragraph B, personality. Is that what I said? Personality? Yeah, personality. And then body paragraph C is about some pastimes or hobbies of his. And then my conclusion. So, for example, in my, let's see, in the body paragraph A about work, I said that before he was born he was born in Mexico, Guanajuato, as I said in the introduction, but his family moved to Texas, and they settled in the Lockhart area. It's over there between San Marcos and San Antonio, basically. And so they're in Lockhart, but then they moved back to Mexico, and that's where the story begins. The true story, right? Because after working in farms, and learning a lot about farming, he moved back to Mexico with his family, like his wife and some of his kids. And they moved back to Mexico to work the land, because the U.S. government, not the U.S. government, the Mexican government gave land to Mexicans that were living in the U.S. and kind of persuaded them to come here. We'll give you some free land, right? And so a lot of people went, and that's where my grandma, who was 13 years old, right? That's where she went over there and helped her dad, who's my mom's abuelito Pancho, helped them clear the land. He didn't have a son to help him with that, but he had a tough 13-year-old daughter. And I mean, my grandma has passed away. She was always a very feminine person, etc. But nonetheless, she was also very tough. And she did a lot of tough things in her life. Life was not easy. Very smart too. Very, very intelligent. And a great singer also. She was a wonderful singer and loved to do it. So anyway, this first part is all about the work that he did. He did some muscle work, right? He did some work, farming and everything. but he also did some very important government work. He was a kind of an organizer and an advocate. He worked on committees to advocate for the rights and the equipment and the conditions of the farmers there. And so that's most of his work. He also had a store. So you'll read all about the kind of work he did. Okay. And then in body paragraph B, his personality. He was a leader. He was very proper in dress and in speech. He was very gentle. And I put some details that my mom said, from what she remembers, the way he talked, the way he did things. Part of his personality was to be very knowledgeable. It seemed like he knew everything about everything. He didn't know everything. Obviously, nobody does, but it seemed like he did. And in a good way, not in an arrogant way, according to my mom. And she had a lot of good friends and had some good habits, especially good habits of health. He was always very clean and always recommended the eating of vegetables and fruits that he grew himself also in his garden. He ate oatmeal every day. Notice those little details. I love that my mom gave me little details like that he ate oatmeal every day. And that he said, no hay como llenar los pulmones con el aire puro y fresco de la mañana. In other words, nothing like filling one's lungs with pure, fresh air of the morning. So he was an early to bed, early to rise kind of person. So that's my section on his personality. All those were aspects of his personality. And then pastimes. He loved gardening. I mentioned that already. He would grow a lot of things. And the kids would love to eat. They couldn't wait to eat the bananas, for example, that he grew. And sometimes they would eat them when they were still green and they didn't taste that good, right? And oranges. He would tell them you can have as many oranges as you want, but make sure they're orange, right? Don't eat them when they're green. But my mom says that they would eat them green anyway because they were in such a hurry, like they were impatient to eat them, but that they would end up tasting like lemons, which was fine because they would put salt on it and kind of eat them. It's kind of like a big lemon. People like to eat lemon with salt. I know my sister likes that. I don't like that, but I mean, people like that, right? Something kind of in Spanish is acidito, right? Something kind of acidic with a little salt on it. And so they would end up eating their oranges like that, right? He was very generous. He said, people could pick as much as they want and no problem. He would share what he had. Music, he played the accordion. He played what I call the king of northern Mexican instruments, el acordeon, right? He played the accordion. And so I have a little section on that. So that's the hobbies or pastime section. And if you'll notice my essay number 2, I had information about, and my essay number 2 was about faith, right? And I talked about my faith to pursue music and not worry about people saying that I'm not that good or whatever, right? Because what matters is that I love music, etc. So I love music. So I didn't know that my Bonito Pancho played the accordion, that my mom's Bonito Pancho played the accordion, but I was so happy when she said that he did because I knew I could include a paragraph about music. Okay. And then here's the conclusion. In my last 2 outlines, I have not included any information in my conclusion. This time I did, because I have some things that now this could change. Sometimes when you write, and anything can change. Like really, I could put things in a different order. I could add things, delete things, etc. But I think if I'm kind of running out of time, I'm just going to go with what I have here. And this is I think a good way of concluding the essay right here. And it's sad because when I met him, he was blind, missing a leg. Eventually, he had diabetes. I think it's just one of those hereditary things because he was always very, very thin, very, very good health from pictures that I've seen. The picture that I'll put in my essay will show that. But sometimes things like cancer and diabetes don't always come to those who, I mean, none of us deserve to be sick, right? That no one should say that someone deserves to be sick, but it is true that sometimes we do things that kind of make it more possible, right? That we'll get sick than if we didn't do certain things, right? So you could say he had a pretty healthy lifestyle, but nonetheless, he still got diabetes and had a later in life. His was in old age. It wasn't when he was younger. But yeah, it's sad. It was sad to see him that way. So I'm very happy that he lived a very rich, full life with both legs, right, and full vision. He did a lot of things, and that it was only a few years at the end where he had those problems. He didn't seem like a sad person though, from what little I remember. He seemed like he was nonetheless confident and optimistic still, and still someone who could tenía mucha plática, someone who could had a lot of good conversation and a lot of good things to say and good advice to give people. And like I said, people really respected him. I know my grandma Cello, right? She really loved him, and so does my mom. And so I was very happy to do this assignment. I hope that you have good experiences as well as you do your assignment. An assignment can be just an assignment, right? Or it can be something meaningful that kind of provides you with something. You get something out of it besides a grade. So I hope you get a good grade, right? And remember, there's a first draft and there's a second draft, but also that you get a good experience out of this. And that's it. That is this video. I am happy that it's under 1 hour. I'm looking at the clock. It's like 56 minutes and change. That's all right. And so just feel free to contact me with questions, etc. And look forward to reading your outlines for your essay number 3. All right. Bye-bye.